everyone, and welcome to Spotlight North Carolina Cooperative Extension. I'm your host, Rebecca Benton. North Carolina Cooperative Extension is comprised of two land-grant universities, NC State University and NC A&T State University. We are located in all 100 counties, including the koala boundaries. Now today, I have with me returning guest Lydia Miles. Lydia, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Now tell us a little bit about what you do for North Carolina Cooperative Extension.
Sure. I am Columbus County's field crops agent, so I handle corn, soybean, the teeny bit of tobacco we've got left, cotton, those kinds of things. I also handle ponds for the county as well.
Okay, all right. Now today we're going to talk about field crops, right? So let's talk a little bit, or you tell me a little bit about what's going on with field crops this summer.
Sure. So right now, our program has two field trials that we have planted, or one's planted, one is to be planted. We have a corn variety trial, and that has 7 varieties, and it's replicated 4 times within the field. And then we will be having a soybean trial, hopefully. The weather's really thrown us for a loop. We're planting late. We're currently middle of June, and that's a bit later than we'd normally want to plant, but it's been so dry that we just haven't had the moisture that we need to plant and get that crop established.
Right. Okay. So that's what's going on this summer.
That's what's going on.
All right. So why do we host trials?
So we host trials to give farmers kind of a set of hyperlocal data to compare to the OVT trials that are conducted by the state. In terms of variety trials anyways. So our corn trial has 7 popular varieties that we've had questions about, or that farmers have wanted to see grown in this area and see how it might do. So we're giving them a set of data from their county that they can take and compare to the regional OVT trials and use that to make decisions for their farm. Our soybean trial is a little bit different. It's a research-based trial. It is comparing determinate and indeterminate soybeans and their growth habits. So when that goes in the ground and starts growing, I'll go out to monitor it routinely and write down the differences in the growth habits between the 2 types of soybeans.
Okay. Now, talking about this, talk a little bit about the point of, is it replicating or
Yeah, replicated. So both our corn trial and our soybean trial are replicated trials. And what that means is that whatever you're studying, so for the corn trial, for instance, it's varieties. All 7 of those varieties are planted 3 or 4 times within that field. And that way it kind of takes out any sort of environmental impacts. So edge of the field impacts, or, you've got a low spot in the field, things of that nature that could impact the yield. It takes out that variation and makes it more routine.
Now, how big of a trial do you usually plant?
It has varied greatly since I've been here. We've changed the way we've done the trials. The corn trial is the one we've done the longest. And when I first started, I think the first year I was here, we had like 20 varieties, and it was huge. Took a lot of land. Then we dropped down to about 12 and just planned it out. Last year was the first year we started replicating to take out the impact of those environmental things. And we've done that. This will be the 2nd year, so we'll see how it goes. We're continuously trying to improve and adjust in ways that are better and, give us better data.
Well, tell me, now how do they get planted? Is this like land that is donated or studied particularly? Tell me a little bit about this process.
Sure. So the way it works is that with the corn trial, we are given all the seed for it. Okay. And we find a cooperator who is willing to work with us. The cooperator uses his time and his equipment to plant the corn for us, and will farm it in the same way that he farms all of his other corn. Then when we harvest, we take a small subsample from each variety so that we can get test weight and moisture and things like that. And the farmer keeps all the grain harvested off of that land.
Okay.
Also, if there's any seed left over when we're planting, he can keep that and plant it out wherever he wants to.
So it sounds like it's beneficial to the farmer as well to
It
say, hey, let's do a trial here and see
it
how it turns out.
is. It can be. It takes a little bit of time on their end, but we try and make it mutually beneficial so that they're getting that
Right.
seed in the end. We're always looking for cooperators. If anyone is interested in hosting a trial next year for any crop, we can do them on peanut, we can do soybean, we can do corn, anything like that. And we'd love to work with you and get trials in different locations in the county.
Okay. And how can they get up with you, or if they're interested?
Sure. You can email me. My email address is listed on the Cooperative Extension website. You can also give us a call at 910-640-6605 and ask for me, Lydia Miles, and I'd be happy to talk to you about hosting a trial in the future.
And that, is there any particular thing that they have to meet requirements?
No, we have to have a field big enough, but most of these trials can be conducted on a relatively small piece of land, and you've got to have the ability to plant it and harvest it and whatnot. We bring a weigh wagon out at harvest so we can get the total weight, but you just got to be able to farm.
So as long as they got their farming equipment and their time, they're willing to put that in there.
Yes.
Then we're willing to work with them and get these trials done, and
Right.
we're disseminating results for the state
Yep.
and local farmers, and then they get to kind of keep the profits off the farm, right?
Right,
Off
yeah.
of the produce, I guess, that whatever it may be that we're
Yeah.
planting.
That's correct. Yes. So, yeah, we're always looking for good cooperators. I know it takes a little bit of time on their end, and time is hard to come by in planting season, but we really appreciate it, and the data that we're getting is very valuable.
Okay. Now, what kind of trials do we have going on currently, and how are they doing?
So we have the corn trial. It's that variety trial I've mentioned several times. Just like most of the corn in the county, it could be better. We really, really need rain. All across the county, across all crops. It's been quite some time since we've seen any real amountable rain, and the forecast for the next 10 days or so isn't looking too promising. It's struggling. A lot of the corn out there is struggling. A lot of the beans out there are struggling. Just about everything is really needing some water if we're going to recover and come back and see decent yields. And like I said, our soybean trial hasn't been planted. We're June 19th today when we're filming this, and I really would have liked to have planned it a number of weeks ago, but we just didn't have the moisture, and by the time we were ready to plant, we had gotten everything lined up. The moisture was gone. We waited, hoped to get more moisture, and we're still waiting.
What is the latest that you could wait on that soybean trial?
We can wait a while longer. The thing is, once you get out of May is really our optimum planting time. Once you get to about now, you're starting to lose a percentage of your yield for every day that you wait to plant. So you get to a point where at some point we'll have to make the determination if it's worth the time and the effort to plant it when the yield is going to be not great. Now, it is a growth habit study, so it's not a yield-based study, but we still want it to be worth the farmer's time.
Right.
We're not there yet. We've got a little while. We still have a little while. It's just that we're passing the optimum planting window, which is where you'd see your highest yields. But I know a lot of people out there are in the same situation we are. So just praying for rain and working with what we've got.
That's true. Now, I know that you've been an agent with us for 5 years now, and you talked about trials when you first started. Is this typical of, like the dryness? Is this typical of our season? Are we extra dry? Are we less dry?
This is the driest season we've had since I started, as far as the time of year goes. We frequently get dry towards the end of summer, but at that point, corn's normally drying down, and we don't need the moisture. Right now, A lot of the corn is in vegetative growth stages. We have some corn out there that's tasseling, which means it's reached reproductive stages. And water is really essential for all of that. You need water to get the growth, but also once it hits reproductive stages, the pollen is moved with water. So you need water to be able to pollinate, get good pollination, which is what affects how the kernels are set on the cob. And without that water, you're not going to get good uniform pollination or good growth. So it's kind of crucial for this time of year. And it's more dry this June than it has been in any June since I've been here.
I have to say, usually, I can agree with that, because usually it's like, is it going to rain? Is it not going to rain? And then you think it's going to rain, and then it doesn't. So
yeah, it's an interesting season, that's for sure. Every season farming is different and poses its own challenges, whether it's too wet or too dry or any number of things. But all we can do is work with what we've got and make decisions as we need to make sure we get some good yields at the end of the season.
Now, I just want to go back to a part you were talking about earlier, because you were talking about that y'all do 7 varieties,
right?
And then you replicate them how many times in that field?
3 or 4 times.
So is it like a patch? Like what kind of,
so
how does that work?
You can do it multiple ways. The easiest way in an on-farm situation is to just plant laterally. And we split the planter. We had a 12-row planter, so we put 6 rows of one variety and 6 rows of another variety. So we planted a strip, and then we moved over a certain number of spaces, certain number of rows, and then he came back, planted another strip, moved over a certain number of randomized number of rows, and planted it again. So across the field, each of these 7 varieties is planted in 3 separate locations, 3 or 4, depending on what you're working with. I think we did 3 this year just to accommodate the field size. We didn't have quite enough room to do 4. But that's the way we do it in an on-farm situation. In research situations, a lot of times they're stacked. So you'll do 1 through 7 and then jump up in the field and do them in a different randomized order and go about it that way. But it's just easier on the farmer to do it this way. Randomization and replication is not the easiest thing to accomplish in an on-farm situation, but we're making it work.
Now, why is it again that we do the randomization? And
because we're trying to take out any of the edge effects and environmental factors, variability in the soil and variability in the field, things that can affect yield. If you've got a low spot and you've had a heavy rain year, you might see less yield in that spot. If you've got variability in the soil and one spot's not as good as the rest of the field, you'll see less yield there. So by replicating it 3 times, you kind of just get an overall picture of the whole field, and it eliminates that or minimizes that sort of variability that you'd see.
now, how do y'all actually measure the yield?
So we've got a formula to do it because we're working with we don't use yield monitors when we measure the yield, just because they can be a little inaccurate depending on how they're calibrated. Some of them are very accurate, but we bring out a weigh wagon. The farmer harvests the grain, brings it to us, dumps it in the weigh wagon. I get a weight off of that, and I take a subsample, which lets me calculate test weight and moisture. And I have a formula that takes into consideration the acreage, the test weight, the moisture, and the actual weight of the grain. And we're able to use all of that to figure out the yield per acre.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Hey, I've learned quite a bit today. And Lydia, if anybody wants to get in touch with you about doing these trials, again, give them some information. Or if they want information about trials.
Right. My phone number at the office is 910-640-6605. You can also hop on our website, and my email address is there. On our Facebook, it also has my contact information and has posts about the trials, including which varieties are included in our corn trial this year, and some pictures if anyone wants to keep up with that.
All right. Well, Lydia, thank you so much. Audience, thank you guys for joining us for this episode of Spotlight North Carolina Cooperative Extension. As always, if you are on our YouTube channel, please like and subscribe our videos and subscribe to our channel. We look forward to seeing you guys in the next episode.